In today's book review, I'd like to talk a little bit about The Martian by Andy Weir. I would imagine by now most of you are familiar with the story. I thought it was kind of a fun story. It was different. It was kind of, a nice change of pace. But I think there were just too many things going on around the story that kind of took away from it and maybe didn't allow it to be kind of the fun read that it could have been. If you're not familiar with the story, this is a group of astronauts land on Mars, and there's an emergency in which they all have to evacuate. Immediately in the evacuation and the emergency, one of the astronauts is hurt, and the crew believes he's dead. And in their attempt to save themselves, they leave the body behind. There is a kind of an odd set of circumstances that all come together that actually the guy survives, and then he's forced to live on the planet and survive with limited resources and kind of on his own wits. So I was reading some reviews of the story, and they kept coming back to the term survivor porn, that we were watching this guy, survive and almost die and then come back at the last minute and almost die and come back at the last. A buddy of mine was reading this story at the same time, and I kept referring it to MacGyver porn. The idea that somebody is just so amazingly talented and smart and creative that they can survive on anything. And if you're not familiar with the show MacGyver, this was a show out of the, probably the 80s or so, in which this guy was a scientist and he could do amazing things with, just a few items. And it was just like, the big joke was that, he could make a bomb out of a piece of chewing gum. So this astronaut is forced to do all these kinds of things with just a few items that he finds around. I think it was a good story about human survival and the spirit of humanity and how we just don't let go and we don't quit and we don't back down from a challenge. I saw that a lot, and that was a good message. But unfortunately, it just felt like from the very beginning, yes, he was going to survive. Yes, he was going to do it. And there were all these things that happened to him, and he almost died, but he makes it through. And almost, but this like weird little thing happens that allows him to survive or live or whatever. For instance, even his initial survival from the first act, from the storm that rolled through and caused the astronauts to leave him behind, he lands face down, and as he lands face down, the blood congeals around his suit, and that stops up the air leak, and that prevents him from his spacesuit, depressurizing. And yes, that's possible, and is it probable? Maybe not. And I think that was one of the detractors of the book. Everything I read, everyone said the science in the book was right. Everybody said that was correct, and I believe that. But the idea that, he had all these little close shaves and he kept coming through by the skin of his teeth, it just got to be a little too much after a while. I think something else that detracted from the book was the fact that the movie was out while I was reading this, and I have not seen the movie. I probably will at some point. It probably would be a good watch. The book did come first, but there was this sense that this was written for the movie. That this was, the movie was, the ultimate goal of the book. The way it was written, the way it was staged, things are very visual. Things are in a way that, this is what it would have been this is what it would look like. This is what he would do. This is how he would say things. And then, of course, the cover of the book, had Matt Damon on the front. And, the whole time I kept hearing Matt Damon's voice in this guy, as he talked and whatever. So, those were some detractors of the book. Yes, it was good. It was fun. I think it was, obviously it's probably something that you should read to be culturally aware, because so many people are aware of it and familiar with it, and the movie, of course. But I got to put it on the third shelf. I mean, it was fun. It was good. It's a nice change of pace. But it just didn't move the needle, and it didn't add to anything.